Hi everyone, and welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Stitches Past 5. My name is Vera, and here on this channel I like to share anything that's going on in my knitting life. And today I'm going to do another podcast where I just kind of talk about the items that I've recently finished knitting, what's currently on my needles, and what I'm looking forward to casting on. I'm a knitter out of Austria. I live here in the mountains, and right now the weather is kind of all over the place. I feel like I'm also relatively busy here and there, but I was still able to spend quite a bit of time knitting, which was nice. We were kind of spending a lot of weeks and months training for this race that finally happened this weekend, so I'm happy to report that I ran, I think it was 67, almost 68 kilometers through the mountains. So now it's kind of like a big relief, and now I'm just excited to kind of chill out a little bit more, which also probably means that I'll do a little bit more knitting because I'm not running all the time. But it also meant that leading up to the race I had a little bit more time because we actually have to run a little bit less to lead up to a longer race, which meant that I actually got quite a bit of knitting done, and I also casted on some new projects, especially over the time off over Easter and the weekend leading up to it. I just felt like knitting really helped me stay calm before it and kind of at least try to control some of those pre-race nerves. Yeah, everything went really well, so I'm really happy about that. But let's talk about my objects. The first one, and I guess I'll start with my finished objects and also what I'm wearing today, because I'm wearing one of my recently cast off objects. I actually casted this off 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of not that recent of a cast off. But I've been talking about this Simple Things sweater for a pretty long time. I think I casted this on in February. I'm usually a sequential knitter, not really a simultaneous knitter, but now I'm kind of starting this phase, I guess, where I'm making more things all simultaneously, which means that projects are just taking, of course, a little bit longer because I'm not spending all my time and energy on one project. So this took me, I'm gonna say February until April, so what's that, 3 months to complete. And it is my Simple Things sweater. This is what it looks like. I'll also put in another video and some images of me wearing it so you get a better idea. So the pattern is by Kutovakika, and it is part of her book, which I talk about on here quite frequently, and it is the Simple Things sweater. So this is what it looked like on her, and I was just really inspired by the ease and the simplicity of it. I really was attracted to the long cuffs and just the twisted rib stitch, which I think always looks really crisp and nice, and I just like that it was in a neutral color, so I definitely also went in with a neutral color for my sweater. Yeah, and overall when I got this book I kind of knew that this was probably the first object or the first project that I wanted to make out of it, so I did, and it finally got done. Let's get to the specs of the sweater. So I knitted this, I guess it was size S, yes. It was a size S, and the sweater calls for positive ease of 30 to 40 centimeters, which is a lot, so it's definitely an oversized sweater, which is also, I mean, I talked about this in the review I did about this book, but the whole book is kind of an oversized vibe, which I didn't really think was my vibe. I mean, I didn't really, I knew I was gonna buy the book regardless because I'm just such a big fan of her. It's not really my vibe, however, now that I have the sweater, I'm not hating it, but I'll talk about that later. I made size S for myself, which gives the garment bust circumference of 128.5 centimeters, and that is close to the 40 centimeters of positive ease for me. Now the gauge here is 19 stitches, and I used the Upcycled Alpaca blend by Hobie in size in color number 2, which I think is called Wheat, and I guess I got 19.5 stitches, so I assumed that my garment would end up a little bit smaller, and that's why I chose size S instead of XS. Yeah, it didn't get smaller, so I guess my gauge swatch might have been a tiny little bit off. I used, I think it was 4mm needles, 4.5mm needles for the body, 3.5mm needles for the ribbing. And I used a lot of yarn. Like I think this is 530 grams. I bought 800, so I didn't have an issue like running out at all. But it's definitely like a big garment. I mean, you can kind of see it here when I wear it, like it's really wide, like my body is here and there is just so much extra, but I think because it is a drop shoulder construction, it kind of works. When I wear it, I do feel like I'm definitely like in a bulkier sweater, but I don't know, the sleeves as well, they're big, but they don't feel like that big, if that makes sense. When I tried this on, like the construction is a top-down construction with like this drop shoulder, and then you kind of like add the collar last, and I was so nervous because it was so big. Like before I added the collar, which is a double folded rib stitch collar, it was like literally the opening was on my shoulders. So I was a little bit nervous about like it just being way too big, but I just kind of trusted the process. I even measured like the width of it, which was exactly like the recommended, or the bust circumference that it said in the pattern. The designer and I, Veronica Lindberg, have pretty much the same bust circumference. I think she writes in here that she's like 89 centimeters. I have around 88 centimeters, plus minus, whatever. So that kind of helps with just like envisioning the item, and that also made me want to do a size S and not XS, because she actually wears a size M, which is even more oversized. So yeah, I'm happy with the size I chose. I definitely measured the sleeves in terms of like, I kind of knit them until here, understanding that the drop shoulder would drop a lot with blocking, and it did. Yeah, so what I did, because I wasn't sure how much the drop shoulder, for your reference, is like, it's here. I wasn't sure how much it was going to drop with blocking, so what I did is I didn't actually cast off the sleeves until after blocking. I didn't end up needing to add or remove any length, but that was definitely something I would do again, because it just kind of saves you time, and like I just don't really want to undo an Italian bind off. That is very time intensive. So yeah, I just put it on a little string on my blocking board, and it worked perfectly fine doing it afterward as well. Of course, I like raveled up some yarn and like kind of attached it, so I had like, I would have had enough to add a few rows, or you know, at least do my bind off with. Knitting experience wise, definitely a beginner friendly project, definitely like easy to read, like nothing too fancy, nothing too difficult, so it's definitely like a low barrier knitting project. I do want to talk about the yarn a little bit that I used. I used, like I said, the Upcycled Alpaca blend by Hobie. In terms of like what it feels in the ball, it feels super soft. It feels amazing. Like it feels just like a smooth, soft yarn. With the, I think it's a 33% alpaca, 33% wool, and then 33% polyester, I think. And it just like, it's such a nice yarn to knit with. I knit this on woodens and metal needles, if I remember correctly. Both were totally fine. When I first finished the project to try it on, it was a little bit scratchy, and I didn't expect that at all, because it just felt so soft in my hands the whole time. But yeah, what was I gonna do? I mean, I blocked it, and I have to say, after blocking, the yarn definitely got softer. It also now has this beautiful, like the drape that you kind of get with alpaca, which I think, yeah, I just love it. I've worn this a number of times. I wore it to work, I wore it outside, so it's definitely getting wear. I guess it's almost too warm to wear it now, but overall I 100% recommend this pattern. Yeah, for me it was kind of like an interesting experience, understanding or maybe finding out that I do like oversized garments more than I thought I would. And yeah, so that was my first finished object, the Simple Things sweater. Okay, now the next finished object that I want to talk about is one that I can't actually show you, but I'll put in a picture because it was a gift knit, and that was the Keep It Together beanie from the same book, Kutovakika. This is what it looks like in the pattern, or in the sample, I guess, and I knitted out of Drops Air, which meant that it was a little bit more fluffy. Yeah, so this is a gift knit, and I already gifted it to the person. This was a really simple pattern. It's basically a simple 2x2 rib pattern with like the decreases made look like the two knit rib part, like kind of like joins at the top. Yeah, very easy to follow. I used this yarn, so the Drops Air, in the color, what is this color? Color number 45, so it's like this bluish green color. And yeah, there's not much to say about the pattern. It was super easy. I knitted on, I think it was 3.5mm needles, because I just wanted it to be like a little bit more yeah, tight, warm, I guess. And I think in the pattern she uses like knitting for olive held double, which I always find hard comparing yarn held double to like a different yarn. I find that a lot easier to do with like single held yarn, but it worked out perfectly well. The one thing I did alter was I didn't do the double folded brim. So what she suggests, I think with a lot of hats that she designs, she always like double folds the brim. I didn't really want to do that because then it gets really wide, like it gets very thick, and I was making it for a guy who I think just wants it to be a little bit more simple, so I just did a single fold. And then I also didn't do the purl row for the fold. I just find that I did that for a beanie and I wasn't really that excited or happy about it, because then you always have the purl line. It's essentially made to make you fold it easier, and I just decided that whenever a hat calls for that, I'm just gonna omit it because it doesn't really work for me. I just find that when you can fold it wherever, it's a more versatile beanie. Yeah, I finished it pretty quickly. I think I finished that in like a week or a week and a half. The yarn was gifted to me by my friend, and yeah, I hope he likes it. Another gift knit I made that was not that simple is the Lars Crossbody Bag, which is also already gifted. So actually the last few weeks were a lot of gift knitting as well. Now this bag, it looked so cool. I really was intrigued by the I-cord stripes and just like it being a crossbody bag, which I really like, and my friend who I made it for also wears quite frequently. So I made it holding 2 strands of the Hobie 8/4 cotton together. I made it in black and white. And yeah, even just the I-cord squares, which I think I showed in my last podcast, like those already took me so long to make, just because I was making them on 2.25mm needles, so sock needles, and it was just hard. Like I just wanted a sturdy bag, and it was hurting my fingers, and the I-cords were just difficult to pick up the stitches for, and like everything about it was just not really an enjoyable knitting experience. So I wasn't really excited about the project after a while, but I still needed to get it done because I finally had finished my squares, and then the even harder part came, which was sewing the inlet. Now I'm not a sewer, like I know how to sew. I've made patchwork blankets like 10 years ago when I was like a teenager. But I haven't like touched a sewing machine in probably like 3, 4, 5 years. So I was sewing this inlet with my grandma, and she is a sewer by trade, and even she was like kind of struggling, or like found it a challenge to figure out how we're gonna sew this inlet for the bag, where I still needed to do the border line at the top as well as install the zipper. So it was a fun but long evening. Like we were laughing so much. It was like a very fun evening trying to sew this inlet, both knowing that it was just like probably not gonna turn out that well. It turned out okay in the end. It could definitely have been neater, but we had the inlet just with white fabric, and then I kind of did like a slip stitch border around it at the top, installed the zipper, which was actually easier than I anticipated. That was really fine. And then I just bought the band, because like after all this work going into this bag that was seemingly this simple thing that I just thought would look cool on Ravelry, I just didn't have it in me to spend more effort and energy and time to like make the whole strap. So I bought the strap, I bought like the metal parts to install it, and called it a day. And I was just so happy that this project was done. Honestly, like if you're a good sewer and if you're good with like I-cords and picking up things, like this is for you. But don't be fooled by how simple it looks. It's the Lars Crossbody Bag by, I think it's Johanna Gehrisch. Yeah, Colibri by Johanna Gehrisch. I think it's really visually effective. Like I love how the bag looks. Would I sew an inlet for it again? No, I don't think so, because I already knit it so tight that I don't think it needed the inlet. Would I make or will I make this bag again? Probably not. Usually I'm like, yeah, it's fine, or I really enjoyed it, but I don't often have projects where I'm really like, I don't want to see this again. And I don't, because I already gifted it to her. But anyways, let's move on to my works in progress. The first one, essentially I just was really excited about like spring knitting and summer knitting. We had like a really hot 2 weeks where our temperatures here got to almost 30 degrees, which is so hot for this time of year. Everyone was out in like their tank tops and shorts and everything, so I was just really inspired to make a t-shirt. And this is actually part of like my summer knitting list, or things I want to make during the summer, but I was just like so ready to cast it on, so I did. It looks like this right now. Oopsie. My ball of yarn just fell to the floor, but anyways, it looks like this right now. So you can definitely see it's going to be a t-shirt. It is a raglan construction. The pattern is called Give Me the Tea, and it is part of the 52 weeks of Easy Knits. It is just like a stockinette simple tee, and I'm making it out of this yarn, which is the Drops Belle in color number 2. So it's this dark bluish with like some black components or yarns, threads, whatever, to it. So far so good. Like the only thing I'm a little bit like not worried just yet, because I think it'll even out with blocking, but I think you can kind of tell that there's like a bulge here, which happened through the I guess you do short rows at the back. Yeah, I did some short rows, but it was just a bit like, it was a lot of short rows for a small amount of space, and now I'm left with this weird like bump here. I hope you can see it, but I think it's one of those things that you just kind of see now, or I hope it's one of those things that you see now and later when it's blocked and finished and once you wear it that you won't be able to see. Oh, I should probably add that the yarn is a cotton, 53% cotton, 33% viscose and 14% linen mix. So it's definitely a summer yarn. It is like a little bit like, I can't even say it's on the stiffer side. It's not a stiff linen cotton yarn, but it's definitely not like, it doesn't have the same drape as a wool or an alpaca would have. And yeah, I'm holding it single. The gauge is, I think it's 20, it's whatever is on the thing. Yes, 21 stitches. I'm hitting gauge and I'm using 3mm needles. Yeah, so this is what it looks like at the moment. I think it'll be a pretty easy finish. Like I've kind of been knitting this while watching like movies and whatnot, and yeah, it's definitely like, for a linen cotton yarn, I think the regularity of the yarn is quite nice. Like the stitches are quite even in my opinion. I think often, especially the more linen you have in a yarn, the more uneven your stitches get, which I'm not like, I don't have an issue with, but I know some people don't like that, so I just wanted to point that out about this yarn. And I guess all that I have to do is like continue the body, because right now it's a very cropped top, and then add some sleeves and that will be it. Yeah, this has kind of been on hold because then, I mean, I casted this on like maybe 2 weeks ago. Once I finished this one, this was my cast on. I visited my family over Easter, and then my aunt really wanted me, or kindly asked me to make her a sweater, so that is what I started, and that is actually what I've also been knitting a lot on. It currently looks like this, and this is, I would say, maybe a third or maybe half of the Coffee Run sweater, which is also a pattern from this book, from Kutovakika. You can probably tell that I'm really into this book and its patterns right now. I think once I'm inspired, I just kind of like want to make them all. But my aunt actually chose this pattern. So it is called the Coffee Run sweater. And I'll show you the images in here because I think this really describes the sweater, or shows it well. It is essentially this raglan construction with this beautiful like twisted rib like as the raglan, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but it's also the same yarn. So it's the same yarn as I made the beanie out of. It is the Drops Air. I literally said that I wouldn't make another sweater out of Drops Air, but I left it up to my aunt. I had like I had a cardigan in Drops Air, and I had like some other sweaters in various yarns that I've used that I just like had with me on the trip, and she just kind of started touching all of them, and she decided that she wants this one. She does work in like a pretty cold or often colder environment. For me, I think a sweater in this yarn would be a little bit too hot, but she said that that's perfect for her. That's actually like what she wants. So we went with this yarn chosen from her. I told her it's probably gonna pill, and I told her that I don't know if it's like the most durable yarn. Like my partner has one sweater out of this and it is starting to pill and like stretch a little bit, but she said no, like this is what she wants, so I wasn't gonna, you know, talk her out of it. So we ordered this yarn, and this is where we're at. What I really like is the raglan. So it's like this beautiful twisted rib, and like with the way you do your knits and your pearls, you get this beautiful edge as well. The collar was really simple. It's not a folded collar. And then what actually doesn't show in the pictures, so this was a little bit of a surprise to me because I really like went back and looked at the pictures because I was really confused when I was knitting it, is that the twisted rib actually continues on the side, which I think is such a beautiful addition, and I just don't think the pictures really show that detail. So when I was following the pattern, I was like, why am I still doing so much twisted rib stitch? I thought it kind of like ends as part of like where most raglan sweaters end their raglan. But I think it's such a cool addition, like that, like under the arms there'll be like this beautiful like just twisted like ribbing, I guess. It's on both sides, but definitely something to know about the sweater if you're making it, because to me it was definitely a surprise. Yeah. Another thing that I did with this, and that is completely my own fault, I was making this at night and I was like not in the best light, and I probably was like here when my first ball of yarn ended, and then I attached the next one thinking it was all fine because like, I mean, I have how many of these? I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9 of these. Then I knitted so much that night and I almost knit up the whole ball, and then when I added the next ball the next day in normal daylight, I was like, this is weird because this ball, like the one I was had just like finished, that I was attaching to the new one, I was like, the new one looks darker, like it just looks darker. So I checked and like it's the same color, and then I noticed that it was a different colorway. And then I looked at the sweater, like the full sweater in daylight, and then I saw that there was this stripe, that it was 2 different colorways but the same color, but it was very obvious. Like it would have meant that this whole like big wide section would have been just a little bit lighter, and this is also like, it was a pretty non-negotiable thing where I was like, I need to unravel this, like you cannot, like, yeah. So that was a lesson learned, that I need to check the colorway. The reason that happened is it's not Drop's fault because they definitely sent me the same colorway, but you might remember that I just said that I got this yarn gifted. So my friend actually gifted me 2 of these balls because she wasn't going to use it, and that of course was a different colorway, but I just didn't look and I didn't notice it that evening because it was darker. Yeah, so that was a little bit frustrating, sitting there having to like unravel the whole yarn, but I'm happy I did because now I think it looks really pretty. I really love this color, and I hope that my aunt will too. It's knitting up relatively quickly, I would say, definitely a bit slower than just like a plain stockinette because you do kind of have to like pause to do the twisted rib on the sides, but so far so good. And yeah, again, pattern is very easy to follow, and yeah, I'm making this in a size M because it's not for myself. That's just kind of like what matches her measurements. And we ordered, I think, 7 of these balls. In my head I was like, oh, I already have 2 at home, then I don't need to like, I always like ordering 1 extra yarn ball because I just hate playing yarn chicken and I would rather spend the extra money to not have to do it. So I have 7 of these. I'm not really worried. Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. And then 2 in the other colorway, I guess 1.5 now after I made the hat. I guess it's a lesson learned. So maybe check your colorways and also look at your knitting, because even the next day, like I was knitting a few rows, and I'm not sure if you have this too, but when I'm knitting a sweater, I don't often pause to look at it. I'm just kind of like in my flow. I'm just knitting, knitting, knitting. Anyways, that was not a fun moment, but we fixed it and now it's fine. And now you better bet that I'm checking the colorway of every new skein that I start, but they're all the same, so it's all good. Another project that I want to share, that I will continue to share throughout the year, my temperature blanket, which has been growing quite nicely. This is where we're at now, so we're kind of, you know, slowly but surely growing. I am up to date with it. As of yesterday, I spent like the last few days kind of catching up, but I think that's just how it's going to work with this blanket. I don't see myself sitting there crocheting every single day. We're moving into the greens, which I love. Like, I love this gray-green, like, off-white combination. I think it's a lovely transition from the blue as well. I still don't know how I feel about the red down here. It's fine. It is what it is. This is what happens when you go to a tropical country and then back to like the European winter. But yeah, I am using a 4mm needle crochet hook, and I'm using moss stitch, which I guess you can see if you know about crochet stitches. I used to crochet a lot more, and I don't really crochet that much, so it's kind of like a nice like pause for my knitting. I'm making this in Cotton Light, also by Drops, which I kind of bulk ordered at one point over a year ago. Ended up not using much of it because it split a lot and it was just like not the best crocheting experience, especially when you do like double crochets or even triple crochets. This is not a good yarn, but because I'm doing moss stitch, which is essentially single crochets and chains, it really works fine, and I have it in a little color, so this is also kind of like my project to de-stash my Drops Cotton Light stash a little bit, which I think I ordered over 100 skeins of at one point because I just thought that like I want this yarn to be like my staple. I don't know really what was going on. I think I was in a buying mood, whatever. Anyways, it's working really well for this. It's making like a nice kind of almost like weighted blanket, which I like. And yeah, we're just gonna keep going. Okay, but this thing that it's been doing is it's kind of like more wide, or like you see it like making those waves at the bottom. That means it's wider at the bottom. And then last time I kind of asked like, or I was just wondering, maybe I switched needle size, I don't know really what's happening. And then one of you very kindly said that that also happened to their blanket, although they also definitely didn't change needle size. So I don't know if this is something that just happens with moss stitch blankets. I don't know. If you have any like idea, let me know down below. I'm very curious. I think I'm just gonna leave it. Like, it doesn't really, like, it bothers me a little bit, but like not enough to undo the whole blanket. I don't know, maybe I'm thinking I'll add like something at the bottom at the end. Maybe I'll try to block it. I'm not sure, but for now I'm just gonna keep it. It's fine. And yeah, I guess be mindful next time I make a moss stitch blanket, because apparently this is something that can happen. I hope you can see it. Like, it's definitely like wider at the bottom. Like, it's throwing all these weird like waves here. But anyways, that is my temperature blanket, which yeah, I'm definitely trucking along with. Like, a lot of people online always say how they get discouraged about their temperature blanket, and I'm very motivated that I will not. So I've just kind of been, you know, yeah, crocheting a lot of rows every few weeks, every few days, because that's just what's been working the best for me. And I don't think it means that I'm behind when I'm like, you know, gonna crochet 3 weeks in 3 days. I think that's totally fine. And I also just like love that folded up. It looks so neat. Like, I'm excited for this to be like a little pillow that can be like expanded to be a blanket once it's finished. I do have all the ends here, so I'm not really sure what I'll make out of them. Maybe I'll like knot them together and like just make frills. To be determined. Right now I'm just kind of like cutting them, trying to cut them all a similar size so I can like do something with them at the end. But yeah, so that's my little crochet project that will be ongoing until December of this year. Okay, so those are all my works in progress that I have going on right now. So mainly those three. The jumper I'm making for my aunt, like ideally that will be done by June, because that's when her birthday is, and I think it'd be really cute to give her as a birthday present. And then I'm looking forward to casting on some more summer projects. But before I go into those, I want to share my acquisitions. I put in an order of drops, mainly because I was ordering the yarn for my aunt's sweater, and because, yeah, I like ordering yarn bulk versus putting in 10 different orders for 10 projects. I decided to do a little bit of research about what other drops yarn is maybe interesting to me, and then this one came up, the Drops Lima. I have 14 of these skeins in the color 0701, so it's the color Petrol. It does show up a little bit more blue here than it is in real life, and it also did show up a little bit more petrol color than it is here, or than it is in real life. So that's to say that I was a little bit surprised about how blue this yarn is. I hold it here, I think it's pretty true to color. I think maybe if I get a bit closer, I hope you can see that there's like a green. It's definitely more green in real life. Or at least than what I can see in the little viewfinder. But when I unpacked the box, I was definitely a little bit surprised about like how blue it is and how little like petrol color it is. When I think petrol, I definitely think of like a dark teal. So maybe I just need to adjust my expectation of that color. But this yarn, back to the yarn, is a 65% wool and 35% alpaca combination, and I think this will kind of be, or I have high hopes of this being one of my favorite yarns. I haven't used it yet, but everywhere on the internet like just loves the Drops Lima. I kind of want to make the Monday sweater by Petite Knit out of it. It's not something that I'll be casting on like right away, mainly because I want to kind of like wrap up my sweater knitting a little bit, probably with this gift knit. But that's not to say that I don't want yarn like ready when I feel like I want a sweater knit again. So it's just something that I kind of threw in the order that I'm excited for, but maybe not in the near future. I do have, like I said, 14 skeins, so 700 grams of it, so I'm not worried about like it running out or anything. And I'm still really open, like I don't have to make the Monday sweater. I think everyone is making their Monday sweaters or has made their Monday sweaters, maybe even multiple times, because they just love it so much. So it's just something that I want to also try out for myself. Maybe I will also like it. It's definitely my style. Like I'm definitely more of a like simple stockinette like type knitter slash that's just like what I want to wear. I have been kind of like itching to start a cabling project, so I'm not sure if I'll make that with this yarn or a different yarn. I am just really like itching to make a big cabling sweater. I don't really know why. I think Petite Knit has a few nice ones. The Kutovakika, like this, the Knits to Wear book has a lot of nice ones. I don't know which one I'm gonna make, but I'm open that with this yarn I might also make a cabling sweater, to be determined. So the last yarn that I was part of that order was this one, the Drops Cotton Merino. I got this in this beautiful like moss green color. It is color number 22. I think it's actually called Forest or Moss or something like that. It is a mix of cotton and merino as the yarn, or as the name suggests. It's a 50-50 mix, and the gauge here is 21 stitches. Same as this one, by the way, also a 21 stitch gauge. This one I want to make into the Darjeeling blouse, which I'm really excited for, and this I also like specifically bought for that project. I'll probably cast it on soon, like probably maybe one of my next cast-ons will be this one, just because I really want to make the Darjeeling blouse. I think it's such a beautiful like knit, and it'll be perfect for the summer as well. And I think the mix of cotton and merino is yeah, just interesting to me. I don't think I own anything that's like a cotton merino mix, I'm not sure, but I want to try it out anyways. And I think this is also one of my colors. It's like a medium dark green, and yeah, I will keep you all posted how I like it. It is a superwash yarn for all seasons, it says on here, which is intriguing. I think it won't be something for the super hot summer days, but definitely for those in-between days, which we get a lot of here because there's always a wind or something going on. So excited for this. Those were all my acquisitions. Yeah, future cast-ons kind of goes hand in hand with acquisitions. I'm definitely gonna move away from sweaters a little bit and move on to summer projects, summer tops, t-shirts, whatever. Which one exactly I'm gonna start on is probably gonna be a in the moment decision. My dad and my mom both want me to knit them a sweater or a lighter sweater, so those are also projects that I don't have the yarn for right now, and I know that I want to kind of like use the yarn I have, but I think it's a little bit different when it's for a gift knit that someone has specifically asked you to make them. They've already chosen their yarns, so I just need to order them and then probably start on those. But I also know that I'll continue my summer knitting and hopefully also be able to knit them two nice sweaters. I'll share more about those in future episodes. So that's the end of my podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below what you're currently working on. And like this video if you did. If you want, you can also subscribe and stick around for a little bit longer. I would love to have you here. I post videos around about once a week. And yeah, kind of always depending how life gets in the way and how work is and how everything else is around it. But anyways, I hope to see you in the next one, and until then, take care. Bye-bye.